going to give you all the background info. But for those of you who are in the room today, I have a file that I've put you. Rebecca, I don't know if you can put the Word document in there as well, but we've got the Google Docs, we have a Word document. And for those of you in the room, I would like you to download this now as we begin, because as I'm teaching, I want you to have the liberty to make your own notes. I'm going to ask you questions. We're going to go one heading at a time. And for those of you who are overly expressive like myself, try not to go through the notes quicker than what I can teach them. I will be taking answers at the end, question and answers to help you along. Now, for those of you who are joining us online, first and foremost, I got to give an apology. There's a reason we're streaming online. So for those of you who didn't catch my online post, my incredible spiritual son, my armor bearer, my right-hand man, made like the biggest mistake ever. We were adding somebody to the LaunchU program. And when he went to go, we use Kajabi as our system that we use. When he went to go and add her, he accidentally added over 8,000 people to my LaunchU automation. Now, what that does, you see, when you subscribe and you enroll in LaunchU, you're going to get this email, right? It's going to give you the calendar where you can come and, get a one-on-one appointment with me. And so Rebecca's sitting there and she's saying, Apostle, I don't know what's going on. We just suddenly started to get flooded with one-on-one appointments. And that's when Nate came on. He's like, guys, I think I made a very terrible mistake. Now, I've only ever had a mistake like this once before. I was inviting some of my close associates to connect with me personally on Facebook. And another one of my sons went and sent that notification out to thousands and thousands of people that had me answering so many emails for years after that. This tops that, Nate. This seriously tops that. Because now Rebecca is going to spend the next week trying to follow everybody up that is booking a one-on-one appointment with me that didn't actually register for LaunchU at all. But I love you. I love the passion. And then I felt terrible. Because then everybody's writing in and they're like, well, I just thought that God was blessing me. And then I feel like, now I'm taking away God's blessing. Then you're putting me in this place where like, I gave you the blessing and now I'm taking it. So I'm like, look, at least I can give you guys the first part of the teaching today. So I don't feel terrible, but I also have to honor those of you who are in the room today. You guys paid a price to be here. And it's not just paying the financial price. You paid the price. You're putting aside your time. You are respecting and valuing the content that I'm giving you by being here, by being attentive, by downloading the documents, by really giving me your best work. If you truly want to honor and respect me, if you really want to appreciate, show me appreciation for everything that I'm investing into you, it's very, very simple. Do the hard thing. Put the effort in. Work. Take these principles I'm teaching you. Go and make your schools. Go and author your books. Publish. Make your workbooks. Elevate yourself. Really. Take these, make money for your ministry. I'm serious, guys. I'm not just pouring this into you just so an FYI. This is something that's gonna, just tickle your ears. No, I want you not to just see the value. I want you to take these principles and I want you to excel in your ministry. That's how you can honor me. You can honor me by using these principles to excel in your ministry, in your career, in what God has asked you to put your hand to today. Your success is my metric. I need you to understand that. My metric isn't how many people I have one-on-ones with. My metric isn't how many of these teachings I've done. My metric isn't even how many people are subscribed to my list. My metric is your success. There's no point in me sitting here teaching you stuff that doesn't move the needle in your finances, in your ministry, in your team. If I'm not moving the needle in your life, then I'm not doing my job. So if you could just grasp that that's where I'm coming from, you'll be able to truly receive what it is that I have to impart to you today. Now, when it comes to the subject of manuals, I need you to understand something. You have great content. In fact, when I even read the book of Genesis and Exodus, I see tremendous content. We see Moses going up the mountain. He gets a pattern for the tabernacle. He gets the laws for the people to live by. But then we come across the book of Leviticus. And what is Leviticus? Leviticus is truly It's the workshop, it's the workbook, it's the part where God breaks things down and gives them a day-to-day rule book on how to live what they just experienced in Genesis and Exodus. You see, God had been unfolding his plan to them, and there's such good content in those books. But when we get to Leviticus, he gets down to the nitty-gritty and he makes them live it. He tells them when to have their sacrifices, what to wear, when to wear what, how to behave. And it's because of that that they could fulfill all those principles in the rest of the scriptures, right? Well, that's exactly what a manual is. It is taking everything that you've taught and to bringing it to people in such a way that they can do something incredible. They can change, they can grow, they can learn, they can elevate. How many times have you taught the same message and you're still not seeing any fruit? Come on, guys. You repeat yourself again and again and again. And that's why I'm doing this, because when you learn to write one of these workbooks, you take the wealth of what God's given you and then you feed it to people in such a way that they remember it, that they change, that they live it. So with that being said, I want to look at 3 main workbooks. I've called the first one the workbook, and I've got my own here that I'm going to use as an example. This is the Fivefold Ministry Workbook. It's for a small group study. This one is super popular in local churches. You're going to get together once a week. You're going to do the projects. It is based on my Fivefold Ministry Progression book. So it's meant to go along with the book. You're already starting to get the feel of it, right? When I wrote the Fivefold Ministry Progression, I realized that it wasn't just enough to teach them about the body ministries or how they should be functioning. I needed to take them deeper. So I accompanied it with the workbook. But then I have another form of study, and that is called a workshop. All right, this is the workshop. I've got 2 in particular, the Way of Dreams and Visions workshop. And I want you to notice something. I'm holding these up to you at the camera for a very specific reason. I want you to notice the difference in the size of these books. I want you to immediately, now you've got a visual aid, okay? There's a reason why this workshop is as big as it is, and this workbook is not. All right, I'm getting to that. And then, favorite are my prophetic school training manuals, which I honestly think are just the most, okay, this is my favorite cover right here. I've got to brag on my daughter, Jessica Toach, who designed these with such an insight that she took all of the content and really displayed it in such an anointing. All right, so these are my manuals. You'll notice they're big, they're thick, they've got a lot of stuff in there. I'll get to that. But these are for the students in our prophetic school. When we had our 2-year prophetic school curriculum, these are the manuals. I see some of you here. You're very familiar with these. You probably have these on your shelf. But what's the difference between this and this and this? Well, that's what we're going to discuss. And that's where we're also going to decide which one should you be writing. Now, I've made it so easy for you guys. I have another document that's coming on its way that has samples from each one of these with the content, with the elements that you can literally take exactly what I wrote and put your own stuff in. Oh my goodness. Yes, I'm giving you license to plagiarize me. Wow. Why would I do that? Because where that came from, there's plenty more. I am not running out of revelation anytime soon. The Holy Spirit is not running out of any anointing, and I am not running out of any ideas. There's always something new to learn and to grow. And my mandate is to accelerate you. So why wouldn't I give you the shortcut? Why wouldn't I give you the easy way? I don't see the point in you having to learn how to make these workbooks all yourself from scratch, where you could literally just take all my work and run and do the work of the ministry. Why can't you just build on my foundation? Isn't that what apostles are meant to be doing? I'm meant to be giving you the shortcuts. You are anointed. You've got this message. You have a vision that you need to get out there. You literally don't have time to spend years figuring out what works and what doesn't. But guess what? I have been figuring out years. Since 1999, I've been figuring out what works and what doesn't. I've rewritten, oh my goodness, these manuals. I've lost count how many times I've rewritten these. See, I've got my husband busy. He's nodding his head very, very passionately. And I tell you why he's doing that, because he's my formatter. And so every time I rewrote them, he had to format them, and formatting a manual is no joke. Okay. They're actually quite work intensive. And so every time I got a new idea or I decided to switch something up, he'd have to reformat it from scratch again. So he's like, yeah, she's rewritten them again and again and again. But that's because it's what it takes. When it comes to training people, it's what it takes. It's by trial and error. For those of you who are teachers, even for those of you who work in any kind of IT industry or customer service, you know that your knowledge grows and you have to go back to the drawing board again and again and again until you find perfect systems, right? Well, that's what I've done for you. And I want to make it absolutely available for each one of you. Now, the LaunchU program is for authors. What's an author? An author is one who originates. And so I'm going a lot deeper in everything I taught in the original author program. I'm going to teach you to write, to author workbooks. I'm going to teach you to author your own online school. I'm going to teach you to author any kind of content that God has given you for the masses. So we're going to go so much deeper. And for those of you that are in the room today, I'm thrilled. For those of you who are online and want to get in the room, you're more than welcome to reach out to Nathan Berry or Dalton Beckering. They're standing by. They can still get you in the room and you can still get all of that content. We're continuing on the subject for the rest of the month of January. I'm still going to have all my one-on-ones with you guys. So we've still got plenty time, even if you're watching this recording later. So let's jump into it. Let us look at the 3 different types of manuals that we are going to learn today. The very first is going to be your workbook. All right. Please pull up your notes. You're going to see the workbook for small group study. Let me ask you a question. Who's your audience? See, I'm looking at the screen and I know a couple of you, so I know who your audience is. And I know immediately which one of you, you're like, that is the book I need. It's one small group study. If you're the pastor of a local church, if you're teaching prophetic ministry in the local church, if you're in a small business and you're wanting to put together some kind of sales training, you need a workbook. It is for small group study. Now, the purpose of this book is to deliver results through collaboration and peer insight. In other words, it's all in the word, like small group study. Your tone, what you write it for, the picture that you have in your mind is so important even before you begin putting the details together, all right? Because as you create your projects, you want projects that allow for peer collaboration. So what's going to happen is it's going to be smaller in size. Why is it going to be smaller in size? Because people's retention rate is real low. Okay, if you're having a meeting, if you have a youth group, for them to be able to go through large amounts of content together in that group, you are going to lose their attention. And what happens when you lose their attention? They don't remember. Rather teach them one power-packed point that they'll never forget than try and shove 20 points into one session that they say, wow, that was good. And then next week you have to start over again. All right. So for our small group study, it's smaller in size. Now, another thing about the workbook specifically is it's just that it's meant to have additional content. Who of you here have a book you've written, teachings that you have online? Perhaps you've preached a series. Okay, this can be an audio teaching. This can be a video teaching. I will speak a little bit later on how you can put that content together for your workbook. So if you have a lot of content all over the place and you don't know where to begin, relax. We will get to that in the second section of this, all right? I'm going to teach you how to put it together so you know what to base your workbook on. But it's meant to be alongside another teaching. Like I said, this is the one that I use alongside the fivefold ministry progression. Now, you can see how small it is, right? So I'm not blah, blah in this. I'm getting to the point. Now, this is just a personal thing. If you want to waffle on for hours in your workbook, look, it's your workbook. You can do whatever you want. But I get bored. I get bored when I'm trying to sit in some group study and the book going on and on and on, just because the author felt the urge to waffle on about absolutely everything they were thinking about instead of getting to the point of the principle. Oh my goodness. I'm not learning that. Listen to me. Say what you need to say in the original content, okay? Say what you need to say. But when it comes to your workbook, you need to understand it's already been said. It's already been stated. So you can assume when you write your workbook that you don't need to repeat yourself. Just meditate on that for a minute, because some people just don't get that. They just don't get it. It's like you really don't need to write tons of chapters. Let me tell you this this mistake we make. We think that more is better. What's the point here? Why are we doing what we're doing? Is it to fill up space and time, or is it to create impact? Because I can create impact with just a couple words. I don't need to create impact with 20 chapters in my first lesson of my little old workbook so that people think I'm intelligent. Here's the thing about workbooks. Authors, I love you, but it's not about you. You see, in the original book, you got your license. Come on, when I'm teaching you guys, when I'm helping you find your voice and find your audience and bleed on the page and discover yourself, that's the time to just let it all out. Just let it out, be yourself, tell your story, feel validated, get healed, have your experience with your writing. With the workbook, it's none of that. Just you had your time. You had your time. It's over. It's over. Now it's time the people who pick up the workbook to go through what you actually discussed in your book, okay? So we want to keep it to the point. All of the projects in a workbook are going to have a group focus. So you're going to be looking at group-related projects, and it's going to be very communication driven. I also want to add something else that I don't have on these notes that you guys can add. You don't want to make the projects too personal unless you really know your audience well. Because this is a group study, all right? You want to make sure that the questions they discuss in that group is going to be something that is appropriate to the subject, so they know what they're getting in for, and that everybody is comfortable talking about. Otherwise, you're going to create a very negative feeling. Nobody's going to buy your book. Nobody's going to use your book. Okay? I really want to shift your mindset here towards your audience. What do they need? What do they feel? What do they want? For those of you who are in ministry, that is a really challenging mindset shift. And do you know why? Because your mindset is this: I will say what God gives me to say. I will do what I feel led to do. I will follow the flow. Yeah, none of that applies for this. Welcome to coaching. People don't care about your flow. They care about their process. So if you don't shift and recognize that this is for them, this is for them. Are they comfortable? Do they want to talk about this in a group setting? Is this even what they want? Listen, can I teach you how to make money selling books for a little minute? Can I get a little less spiritual and get a bit real with y'all? Give people what they want and slip in what they need. Okay? Give them what they want and then put in what they need. You will actually sell your book. You can't shove a book you want people to want down their throats. They're not going to give you money for it. Does that sound like compromise? Well, I'm just going to leave that on the table and remind you that this is a LaunchU teaching, and I'm coaching you on how to become a successful author and get your book sold. If you don't want to get your book sold and you just want to express your own thoughts, there are other courses, but it's not this one, because I actually want to see what's inside of you out there for everybody else to be able to glean from. Okay? So when you're coming to write these books, is it what people want? Not is it what you've got to give them? Is it what they want? Is it what they've asked for? It's very easy. Ask yourself, what have people been asking for? Look at the groups you're in, the circles you're in. What did people keep asking for? The worst thing that you can do is when they ask for one thing and then give them something else because it's what you want to give. People don't want what you want to give. All right? So it's smaller in size. It's meant to be used alongside another teaching. It's to the point, group focused, and very communication driven. Every project you want a discussion with others because you want input. Every project they do, they're not going to find the answers alone. That's the point of a workbook, okay? They're going to find the answers with others. Isn't that even what the Bible tells us? Everyone has a hymn. Everyone has a psalm. Together we are edified. So a workbook is a strong group focus, all right? All right, so some of the main elements that you're going to have in it is going to be a group project, personal question, and outcome assessments. I'm going to discuss these particular points later on, each of these where I've got under objects. Not only am I going to discuss them, but I've actually got examples for each one of these for you in the second document, all right? That's called editable templates. I've got it for you there. All right, let's move on to the second book, which is a workshop. All right, this one's going to be a lot larger in size. It's going to take you more work, you guys. It's going to take you more work, but I quite like these. I only have a couple of them, and I'm actually thinking of putting out a lot more. Now, what's fantastic about the workshop is that it's an all-in-one. Although you might have accompanying material with it, it's an all-in-one. People can buy this and not need to buy an additional book. People can buy this and not need to have another teaching. This is an all-in-one. It contains the teaching, the projects, and everything else. So as a result, it's going to be a lot thicker. It's going to be a lot more intensive. When we started our very first prophetic school, this is how we did all our manuals, actually. But then what happened is, you'll see when I get to manuals, when I teach on it, it got too big. You see how big this is? You see how big this is? Now imagine a 2-year curriculum. It got a little big. It got a little big. I was like, okay, we need to rethink how we're going to teach people. And when it comes to online schools, I realized that there were 2 thought processes that we needed to deal with separately so that our students were more equipped. Now, what this workshop is going to do, it's for equipping and activation. Now, this is a nice middle line book. This is for people who want to study on their own, or they want to take it and use it as a group project. So a lot of churches take these as well and use them in their group projects, and you absolutely can. It's a nice middle line because it's a workshop. It's all in all. They can do the reading together and then do the projects together as well. So if you're looking at creating something that's all in one. Now, this is who this is good for. This workshop. Say now, for example, you're on a track at the moment where you have some teachings or some courses that you want to do, but you wouldn't say it's very extensive. Like you don't have hours and hours of content. You really are just on a track. Say now you're just teaching on a business principle or something specifically related to ministry or on leadership, and you don't have tons and tons of content, and you feel you want to write a book, but you also feel you want to do something super practical, right? Here's your go-to. I'm gonna let me have a look here. How many pages have we got here? I'm on lesson 4. And as you can see, you scan a little bit there. If you look at that, here's the actual text, the writing. And I've got 1, 2, 3.5 pages. 3.5 pages of content, and then we go straight to the practical part. Now, if you do not have a lot of content, or you have not written a book yet, and you want a place to start, this is your go-to. You want to use this. Because, I mean, come on, you can write 3 pages, especially if the teaching you're doing is super practical. For those of you who have any online schools and want a place to start, this is so perfect for you. You can write 3-4 pages, right? You see, it takes the pressure of you having to write a whole book. You can write 3-4 pages of really powerful, meaningful content, and then take them straight to the worksheets, right? Absolutely, you can do that. And you could have your book published actually in a very short space of time. Something that you can hand out in your church, in your business, wherever it is that you are functioning at the moment. So This one is large in size. It contains the original teaching. What's really fun, and this is a nice marketing principle for those of you, it can also contain external media content. You can send them to an audio file, a YouTube video, a downloadable that you can tag along. Hey, if you enjoyed this, you can, do this as well. You can go and watch that. What's great about it is once you've finished writing this, and then I promise you, this is what's going to happen. When you finish writing your workbook, you're going to untap something inside of you. And the deeper you go into the teaching, the deeper you go into your principles, you're going to find there's so much more to you. And you're going to start producing even more content. What's fantastic is then you can go back to your audience and say, hey, I now have little sidecar over there. I've got this audio. I've got this video. I've got that teaching. You can download it for $4.99 over here. And it's a study aid that goes alongside the book. Repurpose your content. Never let your content die, you guys. Never let it die. All right. Now, this workshop, because you're beginning to work with groups and individuals, the tone needs to be very conversational. You want a conversational tone. You want people to feel comfortable. The best way I can say it is that it's a mentor in a book. This here is a mentor in the book. How many mentors do I have in the room? I'm going to give you guys, you could literally have this written max 3 months. Max 3 months. You could literally publish your own workshop. You really could. Look at this. It's so doable for you. Because if you're already a mentor, you already have the language. Boom. You already have the language. You already have the language. And if you have it in you to write 3 pages at a time and then get into the individual questions, then you have what it takes to put this together in a very short space of time and already being effective in your ministry, in your workplace, in your industry immediately. It's like this. When you begin writing, you're going to sit down and you're going to imagine that other person sitting in front of you and you're going to talk to them. How many of you, especially those of you who are mentors or trainers, you've done this more times than you can count? You're sitting down, you're just having a conversation, somebody pouring out their heart to you. And you say to them, you know what? When I was in that place, this is the process I went through. And I know it's not exactly the same as yours, but can I give you a little bit of advice? Why don't you try this? Have you thought of that? Let's just lead you on that. How many times have you sat around the dinner table on the phone, just, meeting somebody and they share a problem with you or they share a direction. And you're like, have you really thought of that? Well, that's the tone. That's the tone. You just imagine you're sitting down in front of that person and you're giving them advice and you're telling them what to do. Step 1, step 2, it's so easy. In fact, the next time you have such a conversation with someone, why don't you go back to your notes and make a note of their problem, the solution that you gave them, because let's be honest, after that encounter, because in the moment you were getting revelation, the Holy Spirit started speaking through you, right? You walked away from that encounter and went, whoa, where did that come from? That was good. That was so good. You write that down. Don't waste content. What's the matter with you? That's like a book right there. There's a book. Don't waste content. Write it down. Write it down. Go write it down. Go jot a note. Can you go home and write down 3 pages of content or principle and then lay it out for them? Well, then you're ready to write a workshop very, very easily. And when you commit to it, I promise you, you're going to get revelation and you're going to see those steps coming to you so, so much easier. All right. Strongly practical, conversational in tone, very practical. Guys, probably the greatest difference between authoring a book and authoring a workshop is that word practical. How hard is it? And it must be hard to give step 1, step 2, and step 3. I just don't understand. You know how many times I go online and I'm trying to find a simple solution, like, how do I link this system to that system? Why am I getting this error on my Photoshop right now? And if you try and Google that and get an answer, you get 50 different solutions. And I'm like, oh my goodness, can somebody just tell me step 1, open this, step 2, open that, step 3? Because that's what a workbook's about. That is really what a workbook and a manual is about. It gives you step 1, step 2, and step 3. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when Craig and I first got married, and we had this little, we call it a little red fire engine. It was a little Ford Escort, little red little car. Praise God. I mean, it was a blessing. It was a blessing because, you know, God had provided. But if any of you know that very first car that really struggled up the hill, there was always something falling off that thing. The one time, no, just there was always something going wrong. And we didn't have the money. We were a young couple. We had no money to fix the car. So guess what my husband did? He had to go and find the user manual. There was no Google back then. Could you imagine a life without the internet? That was that. That was the life. And so you went and got the book. And that's what he did. And he would go to that page where that little part needed to be fixed, and it would give step by step by step instructions. We don't get that anymore. Have you noticed that? How you just assume to know things in the church, you assume to know things in your industry. You just assume because people have been doing it for years that you just automatically know how to do it. It's not like that. Your ability to put things down in a strategy is more valuable than you realize, okay? And it really is a gift. It really is a powerful gift. So be strongly practical. Ditch the blah, blah. Give them the bottom line. I surely cannot be the only person in this world that skips to the part of the book that gives me the answer I'm looking for. Come on. I surely cannot be the only person, because, you know, that's how I study. I self-study. When I was learning photography, for example, and lighting, you know, I used to buy these big books. That was in the days before I had Kindle. And I would be like, okay, I'm skipping to the part that gives me the answer because I want to take the photo now. And they want to talk to you about camera settings and how you should put it on a tripod. And I'm just like, listen. How do I put up the light? I really don't care about color grading right now. I really don't care about all the different lenses you can buy. I just want to know how to point and shoot. I am that person. Guess what? I'm not the only one. You see, now my husband, he's great. He'll go to the very beginning and he'll read it all. And I'm grateful for that. Because when I get stuck, I go to him and I say, okay, what's the other part that I'm missing? You see, so we need at least one in the crowd, but they are rare. They're a rare find. The rest of us just want the bottom line. Workbooks are for the bottom line, guys. Say everything you need to in your book. I teach you how to write your book. I teach you about finding your voice. Say it and get it all out. The workbook's not for that. We want to make it very, very, very practical. All right. Now, the different objects that you'll see in your notes that I've got here. I'm not going to go over them because I'm going to go deeper into that when I get to the second part. But I'm giving you these 3 different layouts. And as I'm wanting you to ask yourself, okay, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I mean, why are you sitting in this room? Why are you even watching this? Because you want to take what you have and you want to present it in such a way that people will receive it, okay? So you need to ask yourself this: who is the people that are going to receive it? Who are they? I really need you to stop for a minute and see them. This is the one question that trips up actually almost everybody, and you can expect, if you haven't had your one-on-one with me, you can already start preparing the answer to this question, because I almost ask it every single time. Who's your audience? Who's it for, guys? Who's it for? Let me tell you a secret. I really did not write the Way of Dreams and Visions workbook for myself. I truly, this is going to shock you, I haven't actually done the work in this workbook. I wonder why that is. Well, because I wrote it. I originated it. I didn't write this for me so I could I wrote this for you. I wrote this for my audience. I wrote this for my next gen prophets. I wrote it for those believers who have started to get dreams from the Lord and don't understand. I wrote it for those that are just putting their toe in the water of the spiritual gifts and the flow of the Spirit. That's who I wrote it for. So every time I put the pen to page, I could see them and I could see what they needed, and I gave them what they needed. Who is your audience? That's going to shift your tone completely. Completely. If you are writing this to a bunch of professionals, your tone is going to change. Your language is going to change. When I'm writing a workbook for leadership, trust me, I use completely different terminology to what I would for, spiritual discernment workshop, which is all about spiritual warfare and the gift of discerning of spirits. Completely different tone to the way of dreams and visions. Because these guys are ones that are wanting to go to war. That we're talking deliverance, spiritual warfare. It just is a different tone completely. Who is your audience? Who are you writing to? As it's a small group studies. Are you involved in a church or in a business setting where you need a study or a course that applies to a specific subject, and you're all going to do it together, and there's going to be a lot of collaboration? Then that's the one you want. If you are not, if you are doing online work, or you shipping it, or you just want to maybe do every now and again, maybe get together and discuss the principles, but you want to activate your disciple. This is specifically for people who have disciples. You're working with a lot of different people, and they may even be at different phases of their training. Then you want to workshop. You want to workshop. Because if you have a couple of them, depending on where they're at in their process, right? By that alone, you're already deciding. Right now, you're already deciding, do I want to write a workbook or do I want to write a workshop? And that's the point of what I'm trying to do here, because I'm going to get to the points, the elements inside each one of these, and it's going to help bring things nicely together for you. Now we have the third kind. I love these covers, in case I didn't already say it 100 times. This is a deep study on a single subject for the purpose of education and training. We are starting to go school level now. You want to start an online school or perhaps a school in your church. This is going to be a curriculum. You've got a curriculum. And every single one of these manuals, they're meant to challenge. So our tone's not going to be conversational. This is challenging. And it's for each individual. Everyone, you can't share it. You see, I think you could get away with sharing a workshop or even the workbook with somebody, but nobody want to share their manual with you, because here you're going to ask very deep questions. Remember in the workbook, I said, don't ask questions that people will be uncomfortable answering publicly. All right? Don't do it. This is opposite for a manual. For a manual, you're going to ask the deep questions, because this is a safe place for people to be honest with themselves. All right? And it's when we're honest with ourselves that we come into touch with the principles we're learning that were changed the most. And so that is why your student manuals, for those of you who want to start your own school, for those of you who are putting together your own courses, I need you to understand the word deep study on one subject. Why do I have so many manuals? Well, because that one's on warfare, okay? And this one here is based on all the process that the prophet goes through. It's completely different study, all right? And this one here is operation. We talk about all the gifts and how the prophet operates, all right? And I've got a bunch of others. Jessica wants to give them all to me, but I'm like, I don't need all of them, Jessica. But the point I'm making is every single one of these goes deep into one subject at a time, all right? It just has to be said, because sometimes you get these manuals that are big. And can I say something else about the financial side of things here? People are more likely to purchase lots of smaller books and lots of smaller workbooks than one big one. Let me tell you what else. They're also more likely to finish going through a smaller book than a bigger one. They're not going to lose interest halfway. These ones, this one, guess what? Almost everybody finishes. This one, unless they're on a specific schooling curriculum and track, they don't finish it. They don't finish it, guys. Listen to me. They don't finish it. That is why I use these in conjunction with our curriculum, because when I take them through the curriculum, it ensures that they're on a track and they actually finish it. To graduate, they have to finish it. They don't have a choice. It makes it a very different mindset. That's what I said. Who is your audience? Okay. Now, the tone of this one is going to be way more intellectual and very factual, because now we're talking about a manual for their individual process. Now, something I want to throw in here as well for the manual specifically is if you have a school and a curriculum, you want to make it very clear what your submission options are. Okay? I'm going to go deep into this, like I said, when I get to the different objects. But what are the submission options? Are you a mentorship based? Are they going to be submitting multiple choice questions? Are they going to be submitting reports to you? You need to decide if you're doing this kind of manual. If you have a school curriculum, listen to me. If you have a school curriculum, they're gonna want some kind of feedback. You don't put that much work into a book, into a course, and not want feedback. If you want retention, listen to me. If you want retention in your school, you're not getting retention. People are coming in for a little bit and then leaving. The reason why they're coming back and leaving is they don't have any connection with you. They need some place to connect with a leader, with a mentor, with you, with the pastor. They want somebody to look at the hard work that they did. Because look at this thing. This is hard work. And they want somebody to say, good job. Praise God. I just needed somebody to acknowledge and validate me that I worked like crazy at this. Come on. How many of you went to school, college, and you know, your good job was that diploma. Your good job was that A with the grades that you got, the credits that you got. You need that in your life. Well, you need that in your life. Listen, trying to divide your audiences for you here. Somebody that just wants to be equipped and learn is going to work through this. They're going to self-study. They're wonderful people. They're amazing people. They love your content. They go through your content. The person that does this is hard. The manual is hard work. The manual means studying. It means using brain power. You don't just use the gifts of the Spirit and it's all done. You actually have to put hard work in. And when they reach times in their process where the work seems more difficult than they expected, they need some kind of connection where somebody says, you're doing great, keep going. And so you need to make very clear, if you're writing this kind of manual, number one, do you have a curriculum? Number two, what is their connection point? How are they going to keep connecting with you? Okay. I want to see if I want to get into all the different objects. I want to say this before we go off live stream, and then I'm going to begin working a little deeper now with those of you who are in the room. Until you see people in front of you when you write, you will always run dry. You won't get wisdom. You won't get ideas. When your eyes are turned inwards toward what you have to give, rather than towards what other people need, your well will always run dry. You will get writer's block. The ideas will shut down. The visions will stop. It will die. The minute it becomes about your ability, my anointing, my message that I've been born to give, you'll hit a brick wall. Because you weren't called for yourself. You were called for others. And not just that, it's actually the way we're created. Think of a mother that gives birth and nurtures her child. It's in us to notice, to give, to pour. Every one of us, we're such human beings. It's the way God made us. We were created that way, to give, to pour, to see outwards. Our eyes don't see inwards, they see outwards. So when it comes to writing any one of these, can you stop for a moment really and really see who you're reaching? Who are you created to reach? Where are you positioned today, right here and now? And how can you use these principles that you're learning? Yes, you're going to make money off the sales. Yeah, it's going to open up ministry doors for you. It's going to open up doors in your industry. It is. But it's only going to do those things if you solve their problems. You see, if selling your book is solving your problem, you've got a bigger problem than you thought. I didn't write any of these to solve my problem, except for this one thing. I hated repeating myself. That was my problem. Kept on having to say the same thing 20 times and take the same person through the same step 1 to 3. I thought, I've got to write these steps down now. And the next time somebody comes to me with the same problem, I'm going to be like, here, do step 1, 2, and 3, and then you can come back to me. I can take you from there. So that's how I started. I can say that that was my problem. But if your whole desire for any of these is so that you can have a great school, you can brag about what you've done, then you're missing it, and you're actually going to cut your flow, because that's not how we were created. Let's set our eyes of who are we called to, where are we called, and what do they need, what do they desire, and do we have that thing inside of us that will meet that need and solve their problem. I want to speak to some of the pastors out there that have prophets rising up in their church, and you know that you need to do something on the prophetic. You know that you need to develop something, but you're like, well, the prophetic's not really our thing. Okay, I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. Would you like to teach something on the prophetic, or would you like those people to go find it somewhere else from a source that you don't know of and cannot validate? Well, in this church, I'm going to give what God tells me to give. Yes, but the people want a prophetic school. And whether you like it or not, they're going to start looking around. Now, I'm not saying that you are familiar with the prophetic. Maybe you're not. But there are a lot of resources available out there that you can go through yourself and you can make available. Because if you don't and you just turn a blind eye, guess what? Those people are going to go and find it somewhere else. It's what they're wanting. It's what they're needing. Oh, I'm really on fire for sanctification at the moment. Yes, maybe you are, and you can absolutely teach that from the pulpit. But listen, if you have a congregation that is going through financial crisis and they're starting to look around everywhere on how to raise money, how can they feed their families, how can they pay their bills, you better start a course in your church on wealth management. I don't like to teach wealth management. Well, here's the thing. You're not a pastor because of what you like to do. We as leaders are put in place because of what God's people need, not about what we can do. And so there's some of you who want to do nice, sexy courses that sound so great, but it isn't really what the people want. Oh, I love doing this course. This leadership course. This is my favorite leadership course. Do the congregation care? Is it what they're asking for? Is it what they want? Because listen, as leaders, we know what our people need, okay? I need you to really grasp this concept. I know what they need, but they don't always want what they need. They want what they want. So be smart, give them what they want, and then within that structure, provide what they need, okay? You know that your people really need to study the word more. They need to get into scriptures. They're not reading the Bible at all, but no, they want to prophesy. They want to do the whole prophetic thing because it's the latest and greatest. And so you're standing on the pulpit teaching against prophecy and the prophetic. Listen, can I teach you an easier way where you get to be the good guy? Host a course on the prophetic. And here's the greatest thing about this and this and this. You're going to see it soon. You get to put scripture in there. They're going to be reading the word more than they've ever read the word because they're going to have to read the word if they want to know how to prophesy. You shifting? Are you shifting? It's about what they need, not about if you try to impose your gifts on people, you'll find that your gifts are just gifts to you. A gift should be something people want. Welcome to LaunchU, guys. I just want to give it to you straight because there's a lot of you are very discouraged because you're trying to give people what they need and they don't want it. And so you're trying to convince them that they need to get what they need and they're not listening. Nobody wants to be convinced. Nobody wants to be convinced. When you convince someone, it's like a wrestling match and you wrestle them down to the ground, okay? And then they feel like they were beat up. No, who enjoys a debate where somebody corners you and you lose? Do you like that? Do you like that? I don't. I may even agree, but you know something? I'm not striking up a conversation with that person again in a hurry. I don't feel good afterwards. So can we stop trying to give people what they need and give them what they want? And then within that structure, of course, we're going to give them what they need because we're good leaders and we love them and we want them to flourish. So we're gonna do this right, okay? And you might actually sell a book or two. You might actually sell a book or two because people are gonna buy what they want. They really are. And if they're interested on a topic that you're not willing to have in your church or whatever else, they're gonna go online. They are. And they're gonna take that same money they would have bought for your course, for your book, for your workbook, and they're gonna buy it from someone else. And you're not even going to know what's in that book. You don't even know what they're getting into. You don't know what they're getting into. So let's be wise about it, okay? I'm going to leave that here before I get into how to begin putting this all together. I'm going to take you now through steps on looking at your content and how to actually put all this stuff in here. But before I get on there, as I go through, because now I'm going to begin asking you questions, and I'm going to be saying, what do you want in your workbook? I need you to decide right here, before we get into the second section. I've given you a whole lot on your audience. Tell me this. Which is the one that you're going to write? Are you going to do a workbook for small group study? All right. If so, there are some specific elements. Remember, in your notes here, I've listed the elements. You need a group project, personal questions, and the outcome assessment to gauge their process. All right. And you should keep that in mind. So I'm going to tell you what those are now in the second session. You're writing this one. If you are writing a workshop, you need study notes, questions, practical project, exercises, and group project options. All right. You're going to need that for this kind of book. Keep that in mind if that's the kind that you're writing. If you are writing for a school curriculum, this is the biggest and most work-intensive out of all the three, by the way. You're going to need lesson objectives, scripture reference studies, report submissions, quizzes, games and puzzles, practical projects, and study aids. I'm going to tell you what each one of them are. I'm going to give you a template for each one of them. In our second document, you can literally copy and paste and begin to put your structure together for each one. But before we move on, let me ask, which one of these three are you going to begin today? And I mean today. You're not in this class so that you can do this sometime next year. You're here, so we begin. You are an instructor. When are you an instructor? You are an instructor today. We begin writing together. For those of you online, I bid you farewell. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who are in the room, I hope you're ready to roll up your sleeves because now we're getting into the real nitty-gritty.